You are welcome back for the continuation of our lesson. The next form of distillation is the fractional distillation. In fractional distillation, you have more than two components that must be separated. And a typical example of such a mixture is the crude oil. So here, this is just a typical diagram for the separation of crude oil into its various components. The various components that we see, we have gasoline or petrol, kerosene, diesel, fuel oil, lubricating oil. And here, these are the temperatures at which they boil. And so as they pass through at that temperature, when they are condensed to that particular product. So here we have what is called the fractionating column, and that is why we call it the fractional distillation. So whether fractional distillation or simple distillation, the principle is to separate miscible liquids which are having different boiling points. Let's now look at the application of distillation in our daily lives. 1. Distillation is used to obtain local gin, also known as akpeteshie, and whiskey. It is also used to obtain distilled or pure water. Last but not the least, it is used to separate crude oil or petroleum into useful fractions such as petrol, kerosene, gas oil, liquefied petroleum gas known as LPG, lubricating oil, diesel, etc. So once again, if you have not yet subscribed, subscribe to the channel, Dogbert Science Channel. Let's go on and look at another form of separation, which is filtration. Now, filtration is a method used to separate insoluble particles from liquids using filter paper. It is also used to separate a mixture of two substances where one is soluble in water. So take note, it is used to separate an insoluble solid from its solvent. So the solute doesn't dissolve in the solvent, and we use filtration where filter paper is used. Examples of mixtures separated using this method are a mixture of garri and excess water, mixture of salt and sand, etc. Let us now look at the typical feature of a filtration apparatus. So a filtration apparatus will have the retort stand with a clamp. Here we have the funnel, and in the funnel is placed the filter paper. So you fold the filter paper and place it in. The content of what you want to separate is in the beaker here, and it is poured into the filter, into the funnel, having the filter paper. Beneath the funnel is the beaker, which collects the substance that is being separated, and here that is the solvent material. The material collected in the beaker is what is known as the filtrate. The solid material left in the filter is called the residue. Okay, so that is basically the feature of it. Let us now look at the application of filtration. So, application of filtration. It is used by water companies to purify water for domestic use. It is also used to produce pure juice from fruits in fruit cannery. It is used in breweries to remove solid particles from beer or other non-alcoholic drinks before bottling. And it is also used in chemical industries to filter precipitate from their liquid chemicals. Let's look at another example known as evaporation. Evaporation is used as a separation method to separate components of a mixture with a dissolved solid in a liquid. So here the solute dissolves in the solvent, and we are going to use evaporation to separate these two components. Once you start heating and the liquid is completely evaporated, the solid is all that is left behind. Let us look at a typical example of that. So to be able to do that, you need an evaporating dish, and then you have your mixer in here. When it is heated with a Bunsen burner, the evaporation will take place with the water coming up, and then what is going to be left is the solid particles beneath it. So here they are using salt and water. You can also have it in this form, and it is the same thing. Application of evaporation. It is used to obtain commercial quantities of salt from seawater. So you go to Adan, you go to salt pond. That is what they use, or the method used. It is also used to preserve food. So that is also there. Now we will be moving on to part 3 of this lesson, and do not forget to subscribe to the channel, Dogbert Science Channel, if you have not yet done so. In a jiffy, you move on to the next, which is the part 3 and continuation of this lesson.